Hello, beautiful damsels. The most dangerous woman is the one who doesn't seek approval, validation, or control because she cannot be bought, broken, or manipulated. There's a reason why the most sinister people in society, manipulators, narcissists, and power-hungry predators, fear Sigma females more than anything else. They don't just dislike them. They are genuinely threatened by their existence. And why? Because Sigma females operate on a different wavelength, one that evil people can't infiltrate, decode, or control. Here's a fact. Predators only attack prey that runs, trembles, or submits. But what happens when they come across someone who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, and doesn't care? That's when fear shifts from the hunted to the hunter. Sigma females don't play the victim, the hero, or the villain. They simply walk alone, unbothered, and immune to manipulation. And nothing terrifies an evil mind more than someone who sees right through their game and refuses to play. So buckle up, because today we're diving into 10 shocking reasons why evil people fear Sigma females. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why some people feel an unnatural level of discomfort around these women. Number 1. They are more ruthless than evil people expect. Evil people operate under one assumption: that they are the most dangerous force in any room. They believe their ruthlessness, deception, and control tactics make them unstoppable. They manipulate, intimidate, and exploit without a second thought, assuming that everyone they encounter is either a pawn or a victim. But then they meet a Sigma female and suddenly the entire game collapses. What makes a Sigma female so terrifying isn't just her independence or intelligence. It's her ability to be more ruthless than the very people who think they hold all the power. She isn't cruel for fun, nor does she seek to dominate others. But when pushed, when cornered, when betrayed, she doesn't react the way evil expects her to. There are no emotional outbursts, no desperate pleas, no visible signs of weakness. Instead, she responds with cold precision, cutting off toxic people so fast and so cleanly that they don't even realize they've been removed from her world until it's too late. Evil thrives on control, but a Sigma female operates outside of anyone's reach. She doesn't just detach emotionally. She erases people from her reality with an unsettling calmness. She won't argue, she won't negotiate, she won't engage in mind games. If someone proves themselves to be a threat, they simply cease to exist in her life. And if the situation calls for it, she can dismantle a manipulator's entire operation, reputation, or influence without ever getting her hands dirty. What terrifies evil people the most is that they can't predict what a Sigma female will do next. Will she ignore them completely? Will she expose them effortlessly? Will she strike back so strategically that they never recover? The uncertainty eats away at them because for once they are the ones who feel powerless. Sigma females don't go looking for war, but they never back down from one. And when faced with an enemy who doesn't play by the usual rules, doesn't seek revenge in obvious ways, and doesn't fear loss, evil people realize, far too late, that they are not the ones in control. They never were. Number 2. They're more dangerous than they appear. At first glance, a Sigma female might not seem like a threat. She isn't loud, attention-seeking, or openly confrontational. She doesn't feel the need to prove herself or assert dominance in the way alpha personalities do, but that's exactly what makes her so dangerous. People fear what they can't understand, and evil people fear what they can't control. A Sigma female operates in silence, observing, calculating, and absorbing more than she ever reveals. She doesn't react the way most people do, and this throws manipulators off balance. They expect resistance, anger, or submission, all of which they know how to handle. But when they're met with nothing but a calm, unreadable gaze, the power dynamic shifts instantly. What makes her especially dangerous is her unpredictability. She doesn't follow a set pattern. One moment she might seem indifferent. The next, she's making a move that no one saw coming. She lets people believe they have the upper hand, only to dismantle their illusions when it suits her. Evil minds hate this because their entire strategy depends on being a step ahead. But how can they manipulate someone who doesn't give away their next move? She also understands the power of withholding information. While others overshare, justify, or explain themselves, she remains a mystery. The less she says, the more power she holds, because no one can use what they don't know against her. This frustrates toxic people to no end. They rely on emotional buttons to push, weak points to exploit, but with a Sigma female, there are none. And when the time comes for action, she doesn't warn, doesn't threaten, she simply acts. This makes her even more unsettling. There's no build-up, no emotional outburst, no predictable retaliation. One day everything seems fine, the next she's gone. The game is over, and the ones who underestimated her are left scrambling, wondering what just happened. Evil people are used to playing the role of the puppet master, but when they encounter a Sigma female, they realize too late that they were never in control to begin with. Number 3. They reject the good girl narrative. Society has spent centuries conditioning women to be good girls, polite, accommodating, endlessly forgiving. A good girl is expected to smile through discomfort, tolerate disrespect, and keep the peace at her own expense. This is exactly the kind of woman that evil people seek out. Someone who can be manipulated through guilt, obligation, or fear of confrontation. But a Sigma female, she doesn't play that game. She never did. She isn't interested in being nice at the cost of her own boundaries. She won't swallow her words to avoid conflict, and she certainly won't entertain toxic behavior under the illusion of being the bigger person. If someone crosses the line, she doesn't argue. She removes them from her life without hesitation. That's what makes her so dangerous to manipulators. They expect resistance, but they don't expect total indifference. She also doesn't fall for the classic emotional traps that evil people use to control others. Guilt tripping doesn't work on her. Social pressure. She doesn't care about fitting in. Emotional blackmail. She sees it for what it is and shuts it down immediately. She owes no one blind obedience, and she refuses to play the role of a sacrificial lamb. What truly unnerves evil minds is that they can't use shame or obligation to bend her to their will. She has no interest in proving herself, no need for external validation, and no fear of being disliked. While others apologize for taking up space, she stands firm. She doesn't soften her words to make others comfortable, and she doesn't bend to expectations she never agreed to in the first place. This rejection of the good girl narrative makes her immune to the very tactics that manipulative people thrive on. They expect submission, compliance, and blind loyalty. Instead, they're met with a woman who sees through their games, refuses to engage, and walks away without a second thought. And that's the moment evil people realize she's not the one who should be afraid. They are. Number 4, they are immune to flattery and love bombing. Flattery is one of the oldest tricks in the manipulation handbook. Toxic people, whether they're narcissists, users, or abusers, know that the easiest way to control someone is to make them feel special. They pour on excessive compliments, exaggerated admiration, and fake affection, all in an effort to lower their target's defenses. Most people fall for it. They crave validation. They want to feel seen, and before they realize what's happening, they're hooked. But Sigma females, they don't bite. A Sigma female can smell inauthenticity from a mile away. She knows when someone is praising her with an agenda rather than genuine admiration. Over-the-top flattery doesn't impress her, it annoys her. The moment someone starts piling on insincere compliments or making grandiose promises, she mentally checks out. She doesn't need validation, and she definitely doesn't need it from someone who's trying too hard to give it. Love bombing is another manipulation tactic that completely fails on her. Toxic people often use intense attention, gifts, and affection to create an artificial emotional high. They make someone feel adored, irreplaceable, and deeply connected, only to later use that attachment as leverage. But for love bombing to work, the target has to crave that kind of validation. A Sigma female doesn't. She enjoys appreciation, but she doesn't depend on it. She knows real admiration is earned over time, not showered on someone within minutes of meeting them. So when manipulators attempt to trap her with excessive charm, she sees through the illusion instantly and responds with cold indifference. She's not rude. She just refuses to engage in a game she never agreed to play. This makes her impossible to seduce in the way toxic people expect. They thrive on controlling emotions, but she's emotionally self-sufficient. They try to make her feel special, but she already knows her worth. They want her to need their approval, but she couldn't care less. And when they realize she's completely unaffected by their tricks, something shifts. Suddenly, they're the ones feeling exposed, powerless, and desperate for control they will never have. Number 5. They can smell deception like a predator smells fear. Manipulators rely on one thing to succeed: the assumption that their lies won't be detected. They believe they can twist words, fake emotions, and distort reality without anyone noticing. And most of the time they're right. People fall for smooth talk, fake sincerity, and well-crafted deception. But Sigma females, they're wired differently. They don't just listen to what someone says. They analyze everything that isn't said. The subtle shift in tone, the hesitation before a response, the forced smile that doesn't reach the eyes. They catch it all. While most people focus on words, a Sigma female reads between the lines, picking up on micro-expressions, inconsistencies, and hidden agendas long before they become obvious. This makes them impossible to deceive. A liar can say all the right things, but if their energy, body language, or micro-reactions don't match, the Sigma female instinctively knows something is off. And once that gut feeling kicks in, she doesn't ignore it. She may not call out the lie immediately, but she stores the information, watches for patterns, and waits for the truth to reveal itself. Manipulators hate this because it robs them of their power. They thrive on illusion, on making people believe what they want them to believe. But when they realize the Sigma female isn't buying it, panic sets in. They might try to double down, spinning more elaborate stories, but that only digs their grave deeper. The more they talk, the more she sees through the cracks. What makes this even more terrifying for liars is that Sigma females rarely warn before they strike. They don't argue, they don't accuse without proof. They simply watch, gather information, and wait for the perfect moment to expose the deception effortlessly. And when they do, it's game over. Evil people rely on deception to manipulate, control, and exploit. But when they cross paths with a Sigma female, they learn far too late that she was never fooled, never blind, and never under their control. Number 6. They are unapologetically selfish when necessary. Society teaches people, especially women, that selfishness is a flaw, something to be ashamed of. Be accommodating, be agreeable, put others first, even at your own expense. But a Sigma female? She rejects this conditioning without a second thought. She understands a simple truth. Self-sacrifice is the easiest way to become someone else's pawn. That's why she prioritizes herself without guilt, hesitation, or apology. Not in a reckless or cruel way, but with an unshakable clarity. If something doesn't serve her, align with her values, or benefit her in the long run, she simply walks away. No explanations, no over-explaining, and definitely no second-guessing. This is terrifying to manipulative people because their entire strategy depends on using guilt, obligation, or shame to control others. They expect resistance, but they also expect to wear people down with emotional pressure. They count on their victims questioning themselves. Am I being too harsh? Am I being ungrateful? Maybe I should give them another chance. But a Sigma female? She doesn't wrestle with these doubts. Once she decides someone is toxic, draining, or a waste of her energy, that's it. She cuts the cord without looking back. What's worse for evil people is that they can't shame her back into submission. Call her selfish? She won't care. Accuse her of being cold? That's not her problem. Try to manipulate her with guilt? Good luck with that. Sigma females owe nothing to anyone. Not their time, not their energy, and certainly not their compliance. What makes this even more dangerous is that she isn't afraid of losing people. The threat of abandonment doesn't work on her. She doesn't cling, she doesn't beg, and she doesn't compromise her boundaries just to keep people around. And that's where manipulators realize they've lost, because you can't control someone who refuses to be controlled. You can't guilt-trip someone who doesn't feel guilty. And you can't manipulate someone who values herself too much to be used. So while the world shames selfishness, the Sigma female wields it like a weapon, protecting herself, prioritizing her peace, and leaving evil people powerless in her presence. Number 7. They never give second chances to the wrong people. Most people give second chances out of hope. Hope that someone will change, that things will get better, that past mistakes were just that. Mistakes. Manipulators, liars, and abusers thrive on this hope. They know all they have to do is apologize, fake remorse, or promise to do better, and they'll be let right back in. But a Sigma female? She doesn't play that game. The moment she sees someone's true nature, whether it's dishonesty, manipulation, or toxic patterns, she never unsees it. There's no forgetting, no pretending it didn't happen, no giving someone endless opportunities to prove they aren't who they've already shown themselves to be. She believes actions over words, patterns over apologies, and consistency over empty promises. This is what terrifies evil people. They are used to wearing people down using charm, guilt, or fake redemption arcs to regain control. They rely on the idea that everyone has a breaking point, that sooner or later people will cave and let them back in. But when a Sigma female shuts the door, it stays shut. There are no negotiations, no dramatic fights, no on-again, off-again cycles. She disappears permanently, without a second thought. What makes this even more unsettling is that she doesn't leave room for a comeback. There's no open-ended maybe someday or let's stay friends. When she walks away, she does it with complete certainty, cutting off all access. This makes toxic people desperate. They aren't used to being discarded like an afterthought. They try to hoover their way back in, using nostalgia, guilt, or even rage. None of it works. The truth is, Sigma females don't need closure. They don't wait for explanations, they don't require apologies, and they don't care about a person's excuses. They make their decision once, and that decision is final. No amount of begging, pleading, or manipulation will ever change that. This is why evil people fear them, because for the first time, they have no power. And nothing is more terrifying to a manipulator than realizing they've lost all control forever. Number 8. They are silent executioners of betrayal. Betrayal thrives on reaction. Manipulators, backstabbers, and liars expect drama, confrontation, and emotional outbursts, because that gives them more opportunities to twist the knife, play the victim, or manipulate the narrative. They want a show, a scene, a messy fallout that lets them keep their hooks in their target just a little longer. But when a Sigma female is betrayed, she doesn't react the way they expect. There's no explosive confrontation, no screaming match, no drawn-out saga. Instead, she simply removes the betrayer from her world like they never existed. No warnings, no second chances, no explanations, just silence. One day they're in her life, the next they're a ghost. This is what makes her so terrifying. Betrayers don't get the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. They don't get closure, redemption, or a final battle. They don't even get to know if she's angry, indifferent, or completely unaffected, because she gives them nothing. And nothing is more haunting than being erased by someone who once valued you. This isn't passive aggressiveness. It's strategic detachment. While others waste energy on revenge plots or emotional back and forths, a Sigma female moves on effortlessly. She doesn't need revenge. Her absence is punishment enough. And for betrayers, this is the worst fate imaginable. They realize too late that they never mattered as much as they thought. Their betrayal wasn't the life-altering moment they expected it to be. It was just a reason for the Sigma female to walk away without looking back. Evil people fear her because they can't fight silence. They can't manipulate someone who refuses to engage. They can't guilt-trip someone who feels nothing for them anymore. And they can't recover from the realization that the person they betrayed has already moved on effortlessly, as if they never existed at all. Number 9. They are emotionally unreachable. Manipulators, narcissists, and toxic individuals live for emotional reactions. They don't care if it's love, hate, admiration, or fury. As long as they can evoke a strong emotion, they have power. They push buttons, create chaos, and weave deception, all to trigger a response they can manipulate. But when they meet a Sigma female, nothing happens. She doesn't yell, she doesn't cry, she doesn't engage in the emotional tug-of-war that toxic people rely on to keep their victims trapped. Instead, she responds with absolute indifference, and that is what breaks them. When someone tries to provoke her, she doesn't react. She observes. When they try to bait her into an argument, she lets them argue with themselves. When they attempt to play victim or shift blame, she doesn't even acknowledge their performance. It's not that she's emotionless, she simply refuses to waste her energy on people who don't deserve access to her emotions. This is psychological starvation for toxic minds. They need drama to survive, and when they don't get it, they start to unravel. They panic. They escalate. They try harder. But the more they push, the more they realize she is completely untouchable. What makes this even more devastating is that Sigma females don't fake their detachment. It's real. They don't hold grudges or dwell on past offenses because they genuinely do not care anymore. Once someone has shown their toxic nature, they lose all emotional significance, and nothing is more terrifying to a manipulator than realizing they never had control to begin with. Number 10. They don't worship social currency. In a world where social status dictates influence, most people are obsessed with approval. Who likes them? Who follows them? Who acknowledges them? They measure their worth by how many people admire or fear them, constantly chasing validation like it's a currency that determines their value. This is exactly how evil people maintain control. They manipulate social hierarchies, use clout to intimidate, and weaponize public perception to keep people in line. But Sigma females? They don't care. At all. They don't seek validation, they don't crave admiration, and they definitely don't beg for acceptance. This makes them a glitch in the system, completely immune to the social games that manipulators rely on. You can't control someone who isn't playing for the same prize, while others carefully curate their image, worried about opinions and alliances. The Sigma female moves like a ghost through social spaces, present but detached, aware but unaffected. She doesn't need a fan club or a support system to feel powerful. Her self-worth is internal, built on what she knows about herself, not what others think of her. This makes her terrifying to those who thrive on control because she cannot be shamed, pressured, or blackmailed through social influence. If someone tries to isolate her or turn people against her, she doesn't scramble to fix her reputation, she simply moves on. If they try to ruin her name, she lets them waste their energy because she knows her identity is not up for public debate. If they attempt to control her through status or hierarchy, she laughs at their desperation because their currency is worthless in her world. Evil people lose power over her the moment they realize she isn't seeking any. She doesn't need their approval, and she doesn't fear their rejection. And when someone can't be bribed, threatened, or influenced by social games, they become the most unpredictable, untouchable, and uncontrollable force in the room. Number 11. They don't just break rules, they erase them. Society thrives on rules, some written, some unspoken. These rules dictate how people should behave, what they should value, and most importantly, how they should conform. Most follow them without question, afraid of rejection, judgment, or consequences. And this is exactly how manipulators maintain control. They weaponize these expectations, using guilt, shame, and societal pressure to keep people in line. But Sigma females? They don't just break the rules, they erase them. They refuse to play by the scripts handed to them. They don't care about outdated gender roles, social hierarchies, or fabricated power structures. They decide their own worth, create their own standards, and live by their own rules. This is what destabilizes those who rely on rigid structures to manipulate and control others. Manipulative people count on predictability. They expect compliance, obedience, or at least hesitation. But Sigma females operate on pure instinct and self-determined logic. They aren't swayed by tradition, authority, or peer pressure. This unpredictability makes them impossible to trap because they can't be guilted into submission, bullied into conformity, or scared into obedience. Even more terrifying, they don't just reject the system, they expose its flaws. When a Sigma female refuses to conform, others start to question why they are still following rules that don't serve them. She becomes a threat, not just because she's free, but because she inspires others to break free as well. This is why those in power, whether it's in personal relationships, workplaces, or society, fear her. She doesn't just resist control, she makes control irrelevant. And once the illusion of control is shattered, manipulators lose the only power they ever had. Sigma females are the ultimate disruptors in a world where manipulation, deceit, and control thrive on emotional weakness and social dependence. They shatter the expectations that evil people rely on, refusing to be manipulated, guilt-tripped, or drawn into pointless games. Their power isn't loud or performative. It's in their unyielding self-sufficiency, their quiet defiance, and their absolute refusal to be controlled. They see through lies before they're spoken, walk away without hesitation, and erase betrayers from their world with an unsettling finality. They don't seek validation, they don't chase approval, and they don't waste energy on people who drain them. They move with purpose, protect their peace, and operate on a level that most can't even comprehend. And this is why evil people fear them, because they can't be played, swayed, or broken, because they don't need anyone. And that kind of independence is terrifying to those who survive by exploiting weakness. Sigma females starve manipulators, destroy abusers, and dismantle power dynamics simply by refusing to participate. They don't announce their strength, they just embody it. And when they leave, when they cut someone off, when they decide that a person no longer deserves access to their world, there are no second chances. That's the final nail in the coffin for anyone who dares to underestimate them. Once a Sigma female sees you for who you truly are, you no longer exist. And that kind of erasure, that's a fate worse than any revenge. If this breakdown of why evil people fear Sigma females resonated with you, then you're definitely part of a rare and powerful mindset, and we need more of that energy in the world. So before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay ahead of the game with more unapologetic, raw, and eye-opening content. Like this video if you know the strength of moving in silence, drop a comment below if you've ever outmaneuvered a manipulator, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. This channel is for those who think differently, move differently, and refuse to be controlled. Join the tribe. Let's keep shaking things up.